Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my first guest today is Jules Tupker. Before I go to Jules, though, we're doing something special today, and we're splitting the show with two different guests. So the first part, back to you, Jules. So you're here today to really focus on the Day of Mourning for workers killed and injured on the job.
Yep.
So, Jules, why is this important to you?
Well, I have a union background. When I came to Thunder Bay, I had a job with the city of Thunder Bay, and I became active in the union movement with the city. But during my time with the city, for my 22 years with the city, 3 of my members, my co-workers, got killed with the city. And health and safety became very important to me. I became active in the union, and I was very concerned about the safety of the workers and my co-workers, the ones that I worked with particularly, and also all the workers for the city of Thunder Bay.
So the whole area of occupational health and safety has really evolved over the years, and I guess in our working lives, I mean back in the 70s is when we really had our first Occupational Health and Safety Act.
That's right.
And so when did this Day of Mourning come along, and what's a little bit about their history?
Well, it all started apparently back in 1984 in Sudbury. That was sort of, if you look at the records, it was 1984 in Sudbury when the decision was made to try and have a day of mourning for workers that were injured or made ill at the workplace. Canadian Human Public Employees, which was the union I belonged to, they sort of pushed the process forward to the Canadian Labour Congress, and the Canadian Labour Congress the year after declared the April the 28th as the day of mourning for workers that were killed or injured in the workplace. And then they pressured the government, and in 1990 they passed an act to officially recognize the Day of Mourning Act, and in 1991 it was implemented and became law.
So that was a federal initiative in 1990?
Yes, yeah. The federal government declared it an act, the act in 1990, and for the whole country, and so it's celebrated across the country now. And in fact, it's celebrated in over 100 countries now. Over 100 countries celebrate the Day of Mourning on April the 28th.
So it's always on the same day?
Absolutely.
April 28th?
Yeah.
And so it started here in Northern Ontario?
It started in Northern Ontario in Sudbury, but also in Thunder Bay. There was also, around the same time, there was an incident at the shipyards. There was 4 men that were killed in the shipyards, and people probably remember that. And the Steelworkers Union here in Thunder Bay also thought it was important, so they also sort of, around that same time, also declared that April the 28th, and so that the movement here started around the same time. Yeah.
So, you know, in the 70s and 80s, there was this growing emphasis on protecting our own health and safety at the workplace. And so this is one of the steps, I guess, that really the union movement took to put a focus on safety at work.
Absolutely. It was really important. And again, you know, unions and unionized workplaces were strong, and they had the ability to push the employer and to establish a day of mourning across the country.
So what's been your experience as a leader of CUPE, the Canadian Union of Public Employees here in Thunder Bay? You know, what has been the role of the union in bringing in good practices in terms of occupational health and safety?
Well, the union, of course, negotiates, in a unionized workplace, the union negotiates with the employer for benefits, for wages, and also for health and safety. And it's an important issue for all the unions. So they negotiate safe practices and force the employer to implement safe practices in the workplace. And the unions are able to do that. Individuals in an unorganized workplace can't do that. They can't force an employer to create a safe workplace, but the unions obviously can. They have the power to do that and force employers to implement safe practices so that the employees aren't hurt.
So what's happening in Thunder Bay to recognize the Day of Mourning on April 28th?
Well, this year on April the 28th is a Saturday, and we're having our service is going to be held at 1 o'clock at the Finlandia Hall. We'll have a service there, and then we'll have the laying of the wreath, the flowers at the monument beside the Finlandia Hall, which was put there a few years ago. And so it's a very special day, and we hope a lot of people will come out, unionized and non-unionized, because it's just important to people that aren't unionized, including employers. We would hope that employers would show up and commemorate the deaths of people that were killed at the workplace. In 2016, which is the last year that we have heavy information for, 905 people died in Canada from workplace-related injuries or illnesses.
That's quite a few. 900, over 900 workers.
241,500 claims were filed for in WSIB across the country. So it's 241,500 people filed a claim for injury at the workplace.
And this is like a lost time injury. This is something that's serious enough that you're going to go for medical care and you're going to be off work for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the ones that were accepted by the WSIB across the country. That's not including injuries that weren't reported. Right? Some people just, they cut their finger and they don't report it, minor injuries and stuff like that. Or it might be a major injury, something fairly serious, they still don't report it. But the claims that were accepted by the WSIB, 241,500 people.
So that's almost a quarter of a million people.
Exactly.
Who have lost time from work.
Yep.
From a workplace injury or disease.
Yeah, it's a huge part of our lives, of people's lives, and again, we're talking just of 241,500 people. Now that were injured or made ill, their families, their friends were all affected. Their co-workers. If you got injured on the work site and you couldn't do your job, it's amazing the number of people that are affected by unsafe health and safety practices in a workplace.
So coming back to our local event here, so it's at the Finlandia, which is part of the Hoito, that same structure there on 314, I think, Bay Street it is.
I think so, yeah.
And there's a monument right there on Bay Street, right next to the Hoito. What's the background of that monument?
Well, that monument was erected. Actually, it used to be at the Labour Centre on Fort William Road. For a number of years, it was constructed and put up by the steelworkers and I think the Thunder Bay Injured Workers Support Group also had a part of that. And it was there for a number of years. And then when the Labour Centre was torn down, it was the union movement and the steelworkers actually paid to have it transferred to that little parkette beside the Finlandia Hall. And it's a very nice spot, very quiet, and it's sort of a park-like setting. We have some benches there, some picnic tables, so it's a very nice setting for the ceremony.
And so who is sponsoring the event?
The event is sponsored by the Thunder Bay District Labour Council and the Thunder Bay District Injured Workers Support Group. The two of them have been working together for a number of years to put this program together, and again, we're doing it again this year. And
so, how long will the ceremony go for approximately? What if people come?
Probably
what are they expecting?
It'll probably take about an hour. It's only about an hour of your day on a Saturday afternoon, so it's not an awful lot of time to take out of your day. And it's a very important issue. I think everybody all the people that I know of at the workplace, they've all been affected somewhere by an injury, either themselves or one of their coworkers. Everybody knows somebody that's been injured at the workplace. This is important. It's important that we recognize and commemorate the people that have been killed and have been injured, because it's important to them.
And so once again, that's coming up on Saturday?
Saturday, April the 28th, which is a week from this coming Saturday. Well, whenever the show goes on, but it's April the 28th at 1 o'clock.
At the Finlandia, everybody's welcome?
Absolutely. Please come out. We'll be having roses. We supply the roses. A lot of the unions supply the roses. You'll be given a rose to place in front of the monument.
Jules, thank you so much for coming on the show, and please stay with us. We'll be right back, and we're going to find out a little bit more about people who are active in workplace health and safety.